everybody. Here we are with another episode of The Whole Message with absolutely nothing on our table to
we've got
talk
tons
about.
of stuff on our table.
I know, but I never had an agenda today, did you?
No, and I don't think we have to. I do have a question for you, though, Mark. When you're out doing your seminars, what is the most popular question you are asked? Maybe the same thing over and over again. What seems to be the normal question that you would get in your seminar?
Other than, where do I get my protein?
Yeah, that's a given.
I tell you, that is one of the biggest ones.
It is.
And I don't get a lot of questions at my seminars.
Well, I'll tell you, he's like the Energizer Bunny. You just plug him in and he goes. I do more of an interaction than you do.
I get a lot of people that they're really concerned about the GMOs.
Yes.
And the organic foods and the raw foods. Those are kind of the direction that people seem to be questions.
Okay.
But yeah, for the most part, I'm like, blah, 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 hey everybody, how you doing? And I'm like, pure energy and.
Well, we do a little bit of different program. Yeah. Mark is up front. He's cooking. He's talking. He's getting his information. And I mean, he is a one-man show.
Where you're up there and you're just
PowerPoint
and
question answers and really mine's
so,
more of an education. Yours is more. You're just an
inspire and motivate and get people excited about getting healthy. And then I share a lot of facts, from the different books and things like that.
Sure.
And a lot of stories. My brother was here.
Yes.
My brother was here.
He was
a couple days ago. That was the first time you've ever met him.
First time I've met Paul.
This guy was 425 pounds and cholesterol level of 1,000, and he had a heart attack, and they put in a stent. And I went up to his house and remodeled his kitchen. He even showed me pictures. He had all the pictures of the remodeled kitchen and gave him a breakfast station and his oatmeal station and his refrigerator and remodeled everything, and got him on a healthy lifestyle. And it's must have been 5 years now, but he's lost over 100 pounds. And now he was still probably about 340 pounds.
Do you think he was that large? I didn't think
320.
He was.
Well, I used to be 325 pounds. I was almost as big as him. So, yeah.
Mark, I can't even remember being as overweight as I was.
But he's doing great. He's getting more color in his skin. He
looked good.
He's got more energy. He even went bowling with us and walked the mall and where he could never have even walked across the street before. He was in such bad shape, and all because he changed his lifestyle and started eating healthier.
I know when he came here, the first thing he did is Mark went over and showed him his oatmeal station. He opened up that cupboard and he's like, wow, there's the oatmeal station. So
and first thing he said was, oh, I have one of those at home.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he still has his oatmeal station.
Yeah, it's amazing what can happen.
And he moved into he has a couple houses, and he moved into one of his other houses, and he still set up his oatmeal station. Oh. So, We
got to go to the kitchen. We got to cook.
Let's do some cooking.
Do that, and we'll be back.
We'll heat up the place.
Yes. Hi, Mark and Melody in the kitchen again. Today we're trying something a little different.
Different.
Where's your nuts and your blender and all your equipment?
This is actually a no blender pepper jack cheese. And the reason I created it was because we always have these blender cheeses. You've got blender cheeses, I've got blender cheeses. A lot of people don't have those high-powered blenders.
They don't. And they're great.
So,
they taste great, but not, like you said, everybody can afford that blender.
Yeah, and I want to create a hard cheese that is not...
Sliceable?
Right.
Shreddable?
And it's very difficult to do without the blender.
And it tastes good?
So this is ready to go, though.
Is it ready? Yeah. Okay, tell me what you want me to do.
I've got a cup of soy milk in here.
Okay.
And you can use almond milk or anything like that.
All right.
And then I'm hitting it with some agar powder.
And that's to make it thick and that's to give it that consistency. Yep. Now, Mark, you're saying you can use soy milk here. You could use a rice milk or any of your milk.
Any kind.
So this particular cheese is actually nut-free, dairy-free, wheat-free, so gluten-free. So for people even seed-free, if people have specific allergies, this is great for them.
Now, if we can make it calorie-free, we'd really be in business.
Well, it is low-calorie from what I see here on the ingredients,
Okay.
but yeah.
Now, what you're going to do is mix all these other ingredients together.
Okay,
And
in
right here I've got a half of a cup of soy milk.
Okay.
So you're actually using 1.5 cups, but we're dividing it.
Any consistency you want me to use?
Not really, any one of them.
Right.
That's your oil. And what the oil does is it just gives it that little greasy appeal like cheese has.
Okay.
It's not really a flavor thing, or it's a palate texture
Sure,
concept.
sure. Is there anything we could use besides the oil, Mark? I mean,
I
if
haven't
somebody
tried anything else
doesn't.
yet. You would know.
What
You would-
about coconut milk?
Probably could. Yeah.
To give
Now,
it
that's,
that fat.
That's actually some coconut flour that you put in
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah, I'm trying a little
Awesome.
something different. Of course, you got your nutritional yeast flakes.
And that gives it the cheesy flavor that most people are looking for. Now, I have a feeling
And
this might be cornstarch.
interestingly enough, I have a cornstarch
Mm-hmm.
and a tapioca starch.
Okay, and what is that for?
Well,
Why the
you know,
two?
when I tried doing this and you're just using one starch, it just tastes starchy.
Okay,
And I found out that when I use 2 or 3 different types of thickeners,
it worked better.
It makes it a more smoother flavor. And you're actually using 3 or 4 thickeners here. You've got your cornstarch, you've got your tapioca starch,
Mm-hmm.
you've got your agar here as a thickener, plus you've got your coconut flour,
Okay,
which is also
sure.
a thickener and a little bit of reality.
Now, I just put some garlic in here. It looked like onion powder. I've got a
Right.
little bit of salt and some dried pepper flakes.
And that's where you're going to get your pepper flavor. So,
Okay. And I'm going to mix that up really good for you.
And we've got this going to a rolling boil here. Now you can use some of these if you want. They're just these little, this is actually
Ooh.
dried red pepper.
Oh, yeah. Is this like a serrano? What kind of pepper is this
Just
here?
red pepper.
Just red pepper?
Yeah, just
Okay.
whole red peppers, You can get green, different colors.
Beautiful.
And it's actually kind of sticky. You can just, so I'm going to just put a little bit in there. Just, it gives a little bit of flavor, but mostly for that look of those little
Okay.
pepper flakes in there.
Yum.
Okay, so once this is boiling for a couple minutes, you just add that to this. And,
Now, it looks like you might
oh
want
yes, we need lemon.
a half a lemon squeezed. Is that what you want in there too?
Helps reduce your salt content, that type of
And
thing.
still gives it a really good flavor.
Yep.
I think I use fresh lemon juice in all of my cheeses that I make.
Yep, just like a tablespoon will do. And you can see how this is actually thickening up too. Look at that.
Oh yeah, awesome. Now, is this something you eat right away, Mark, or does it have to
We're gonna chill
refrigerate?
it overnight.
We're going to chill it overnight.
Okay, are we ready?
We're ready.
So,
If you need a spoon, there's a spoon.
that looks good. And just got to pour a little bit in here at a time.
Now, you and I have talked about agar, or agar. People call it agar.
Agar.
There's powder and there's flakes. We like to use the powder most of the time. I like the consistency of it, and you actually use less. You have to use more when you use the flakes. And the least expensive place to get agar is normally at your Asian stores. Because it can be quite expensive, but you use such small amounts, so really it's cheaper than buying the cheeses.
Yeah, it is. And I think we'll have to get my big container out here one of these days, and it's like $50 for a container.
I know, but it goes a long way, doesn't it?
It
Mark?
does. I mean, this was only 1.5 tablespoons.
Sure,
So,
sure.
in fact, I think it was 1.5 teaspoons.
You know, I can smell a cheesy like in a spice.
2.5. I did 2.5 teaspoons.
2.5
I better get it
teaspoons.
right.
So less than a tablespoon.
Look at this already.
I can already see
Can
it.
you see where it's starting
Yeah.
to get that
Yes, I can.
type of cheesy appeal to it?
And you're just heating it and keeping it on a little bit to get those starches to.
Look at that. You can see it all stranding together too. Isn't that cool?
How does this melt? Have you tried this to
It's
melt
not
it
bad.
after?
It's
not bad?
it's pretty much just for a thickener. Melting, you really gotta get it back to a hot state.
Okay.
For grilled cheeses and stuff, it just hasn't.
Okay, so this is a good cheese to use cold. eat
Hard
cold.
cheese, yeah,
Hard
just
cheese.
the hard cheese. Look at
Oh
that.
wow, wow, that is nice.
But yeah, I just wanted to have something that was easier, and this is going to go right in this plastic container here. Just wanted to have something easier than going in this blender all the time. Because,
I do believe my blender is attached to my hips.
I know, it seems to be that way with all
I
of
know.
us.
I go everywhere. My blender is in my car. It stays in my car.
Okay, So just like that, we're gonna let this go in the fridge after it cools down. Then I'll put the lid on it, but I don't want to put the lid on right away or you're gonna get condensation and the water is just gonna turn into a mess.
Now, Mark, something I noticed that you use in here, you use in a plastic container. A lot of times I use the small bread pans that I cook my breads in. What is your purpose for using a plastic?
Pop it right out of
Pop
there.
it right out.
So we'll put this in the fridge and show you the finished product. Okay. This has been in the fridge overnight.
Okay.
That's good because I'd be like, you've changed your shirt.
Yeah, I guess I have. See, Mark always wears the chef jacket, and for some
Yeah.
reason, I just like to wear my regular clothes.
And you might see us wearing different clothes between one segment and the other because this was in the fridge overnight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these cooking shows we do, I mean, it's not just a 3-minute doom boom boom done. I mean, we have to wait overnight and
Don't you wish?
so
Don't
yeah,
you wish it
yeah.
was 3 minutes?
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than people think. But here's our pepper jack cheese. This was the no blend pepper jack cheese.
Oh, wow, nice.
Right.
Nice. Look at it. Now, my hands are clean.
Yes,
That
it's-
feels really good.
Yeah, and
Like
and
that.
now is when you can slice it up any way you want. Let's say we wanted to do just a.
What are we going to do, cubes on this one here?
You can do cubes. You can do slices.
Nice.
If you did slices, you could just do little pieces like this,
you
one
could-
slice at a time.
Could you have done something a little smaller and it would have been thicker too, Mark? So it doesn't matter. You judge the container.
Right, right. And like for cubes, if you wanted to have the exact same cube, let's
Mm-hmm.
go with that size right there, and then just boom, boom. So there's a lot of different ways you can cut it,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And when it's all mixed together like that, you really don't notice the edges and the little thing like that.
And this this was nut free. So for somebody who has allergies and they're gluten free, nut free, seed free, this one would apply. Nice,
And
nice.
it's fabulous.
Oh, how pretty.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous.
Nice cracker you have there.
right.
You know,
Whatever you want to create.
when you
this.
have company coming over and you want something quick to serve, this is something you can make ahead of time. Look how nice that is. I've got to taste it.
Now you're going to find this coming out very smooth on the flavor originally, and you're not even going to notice the heat. And then
So
all of a
it's
sudden,
going to hit me afterwards.
ooh, but it's not too much.
Oh my. I like that. You
And
know,
that's all the heat you're going to get.
I like this. This is a really good recipe. So I could double and triple this. And if I had 15, 20 guests over, I don't even know that they'd realize that was vegan.
No.
I honestly don't. And I have a sensitive palate.
Yeah, just simple and easy.
Really good, Mark.
And without a blender.
Really
That's
pretty.
the neat part.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
And so you don't need any appliances, just simple ingredients. Bam, you're done.
That easy. All right, we've got a lot more coming, and but we'll see you next time in the kitchen. Hey, Mark and Melody here in the dark. Mark in the dark.
Oh, that's not really good. Well, it's not really dark, but it sure is a lot darker than when we're in here cooking. I just feel this need to do something with my hands.
Go wash dishes. Huh?
I'll let you do that.
We've done enough of those the next couple months, and yeah, we've got all the dishes cleaned up. Everything's done. I don't know where we're gonna put all the food.
Potluck.
Yeah, send it off to homeless shelters or something.
Yes.
It's expensive to do these programs, but
It is. People have no idea. I wonder, Mark, if you out there, the viewing people, know or understand just exactly our schedule and how that works.
well, that's a whole nother issue in itself. Good tea, by the way.
I know, isn't it wonderful? And we're talking herb tea.
Herb.
I know how your events go. Even though Mark and I primarily do the same thing, Mark has a different way. He actually gets up there and cooks and chops and does all this fancy stuff that is awesome. But my events are more what I call an educational. I don't actually stand there and cook, although I prepare food for them to sample and eat.
Yeah, she just sits there and looks all professional and has her PowerPoint.
Yeah, I do. But you know what? There's so much information that I have such
Yeah.
a short time that I want you to learn as much as you can. And plant that seed in your mind that, hey, I can do this. Mark and I are not out there trying to say, hey, do something I wouldn't do.
Or it's a sin.
Or
It's a
oh,
sin.
no,
You know,
no,
some people do
no.
that. They're crazy.
No, it's far from that. You know, all these little baby steps. But we both have lost a significant amount of weight. We have both eliminated and reversed diseases, lifestyle diseases. We have both gotten rid of medication. We are both feeling 20, 25, 30 years younger than our ages and able to sustain the type of health and not be sick, not taking medicine, and go from day to day to day, month, week. There are times I don't sleep in the same bed for months at a time.
Well, I was never on any medications in the first place.
You weren't, but I was.
But I've never felt better in my entire life, and that is a real blessing.
Was you on the verge of medication? Diabetes?
Yeah, I was high blood sugar, type 2 diabetic, pre-diabetic,
Okay.
but never had to get on that. So
Well-
God caught me right in the nick of time and said, hey, I want you.
Well,
And I was like, amen.
preventive medicine, which I call nutrition, is the key. You know, why wait till you're 125 or 30 pounds overweight and you're sick taking heart medication and different diagnoses? And I can remember days I'd just wake up feeling worse than I did when I went to bed. So I never, 5 years ago, you could have never told me that I would wake up and feel the way I do now in the last few years, the last 2 or 3 years especially.
Yeah, and Melody, she teaches a lot of the intelligence side, and where mostly when I'm going into a program, I do the inspiring and motivating. And that's kind of what I stick to. You know, get them excited about getting healthy, get them excited about becoming closer to Christ, you know, through the health message.
So you're the Joel Osteen of cooking.
Yeah, well, does he do that too? Is he?
He's a spiritual motivator, I think. You know, I like to, he's always so positive.
Yeah, he's happy.
You're always a positive person, Mark.
Most
You
of the time, yeah.
always.
Oh, yeah.
Since I've known Mark, I don't know a time to where even if something negative has happened in his life, that he might bounce it quickly and it's gone. Okay, move on.
Pretty much.
You've always been a good influence to me of your positivity.
Well, see, I do classes too, and not just cooking classes, but I do time management, money management classes,
Kitchen.
motivational classes. You know, I used to teach managers how to teach their crews how to be more productive and more successful in life. So I've transformed that into teaching ministries how to be more successful at what they're doing through motivation. So yeah, I'm more than just the cooking programs. In fact, you want to see my calendar? I'm booked 5 out of 6 days for the next couple months. And it's just, and I have to really track every single day, boom, 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 boom. And sometimes I have 2 or 3 speakings in the same day as well. So,
Well, I know for you, a lot of your the venues that you've been to, they are constantly calling him back. The same way with me, you know, our return rate is almost 100%. We can't always get there, but once we've done a seminar, they're like, "Well, when can you come back?" If you're watching a program and God's impressing upon your heart to maybe do something for your church, I don't want anybody to think your church is too small or too large, because I've gone in a church in Ritzville that had I think 7 members, and we were at capacity.
yeah.
At capacity in that church.
Yeah.
Because they got out to the community and said, "Hey, this is what we're offering." And I don't know about you, Mark, but I have so many of the pastors or the event sponsor, the person who's sponsoring the event, or my contact person telling me, "Man, we have had huge events that never brought in people like we're seeing coming in for the health."
Yeah, huge events as far as huge expenses.
Expenses.
Huge hope for people
Yes.
to show up. Huge expectations, but they never produce the
The amount of people that are coming to the health seminar,
that go to the health messages.
people need help.
There was one church that spent $30,000 on a marriage seminar.
Yes.
6 or 7 couples showed up. We come in there to do a health class, and we've got 100 people showing up.
And coming back, people wanting more. It's just over and over again, I see it, and it just amazes me that we are told in the last days that the health message is the what?
Right arm.
The right arm.
And you want to know why I think we get more success is, like you were saying, we go to these little churches. We go to these small towns. Olathe, Kansas, 35 people in their congregation, 70 people at the cooking show. New Carlisle, Ohio, 12 people in their congregation, 50 people at the cooking show.
I did that event too.
I call every single church in the area, and the ones that call me back, that's where I go.
Exactly, and we just pray about it. And I've had some of them tell me, we really want you to come to we live in a small town, we want you to come to our church, but we don't know how many people we're getting. And I'll say, look, if God's opening up a door and you're calling me and I'm coming here, then you know what? God's going to provide the people, even if it's one, Mark.
Yeah.
Even if it's one. And I have pastors writing letters. I have pastors calling me, had elders saying, you won't believe this, but we're doing Bible studies. We just baptized a person that came to your health seminar.
And I'll tell you what, I could talk about the tragedies of ignorance when it comes to these things. Like, you know, I had 8 people show up for a healthy cooking class at a church that had 400 members. Another one that had 1,000 members in their church, and 25 people showed up. And I mean, I could really talk about the ignorance of you know, just putting it on the back burner, not even doing it on a flyer, not even doing an announcement. But I'd rather stick on the positive for today. We'll bring that up at a later date. But I was down. I got to share this with you because this is getting me excited. But it is bittersweet, you know, out there on the road. You know that.
It is.
Atlanta, Georgia. Went down there, gang area, okay? They were dealing drugs 20 yards away from me all day long, flagging down cars. And I used to work in the prison, so I know all the symbols that they do. And sure, one after another. Prison bars on the windows, right? We had 100 people show up to the cooking show. And I'm coming back the next year, same pastor, and he told me out of those 100 people that were at that cooking show, 8 people who had never been in a Seventh-day Adventist church before, who came to that cooking show, were in Bible studies. 3 of them had already been baptized, and the other ones were in baptismal classes. And the second time I was there, instead of 100 people, 225 people showed up.
For a free event.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
charge to the church. I had...
You're never supposed to charge the people attending either. You know, there is, you know, Ellen White, and even what's the health thing down in Florida when they have the health conference?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but
They actually specifically quoted and said that you are not to charge for health ministries for people to come to them. You know, and I know people that charge $10 per person, $20 per person, but I've never charged the people attending because, you know, you're just cutting your nose to spite your face kind of thing.
I had an event in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was mid-afternoon, and I pull up to this church. I didn't know where I was, and to be honest with you, I probably don't pay attention as much as I should, but I'm in this church and I'm unloading, and the brethren and the sister are there, they're helping me, and normally they'll let me in or give me a key, and then off they go and they'll come back, because I have to have 3 to 5 hours minimum, depending on if it's
Sure.
a natural remedy seminar, because I do both, home remedies and do the cooking. And they kept staying, and you know, I'm in the church in the kitchen cooking, they're all out there, and I see these 3 little boys up the window, because I'm kind of in the basement. I'm looking up at their little faces, and they're peeking in and they're looking at me like, what's this woman doing? And I was primarily the only white person in this black community. I don't care. I didn't think it was unusual, but evidently they thought it was unusual. And here come these little boys in there, and I'll never forget this little chubby, most precious little boy. I could have just snapped him up. And he comes in that kitchen, he puts his hands on his hips, and he said, "Ma'am, do you know where you're at?" I said, "Well, yes, honey, I do. I'm right here in Little Rock, Arkansas." He said, "You are smack dab in the middle of the hood." I'm like, "Okay," and he said, "Is that your car out there?" And I said, "Well, it sure is, honey." He said, "Do you know what? If they want that car, they're going to take it. If they want your stereo, they're going to take it. If they want your tires, they're going to take it." I said, "Well, honey, I dedicated that car to Jesus. And if Jesus wants them to have that car or that stereo or those tires, then Jesus is going to give it to them."
Amen.
And he just
Love
turned
it.
around and he walked away, and I went about my business, and I didn't realize till I went out to my vehicle to get something out of it that they were dealing drugs right there in the street. Because I had been focused on
So
what I was doing.
desensitized to what goes on in the world.
Yes.
Amen to that.
And I got in and I did my seminar, and right when I was cleaning up, coming out of my seminar, I remember thinking, Jesus, I don't know who's close enough to come and get me.
I don't know if my vehicle is out there.
You know, so I'm hoping, and when I opened up that door and seen it with my GPS right there, you know, sitting on the dash, I have a CD, nice stereo, my tires. I don't know if anybody would want the tires, but you know, that's what I was thinking. And I thought, thank you, Jesus, because you just showed these young men that your word, when you say you will take care of us, when we ask, we shall receive. And he did.
There's the power.
There's the power.
I'm actually going to be in Little Rock, Arkansas coming up here pretty soon. So.
Oh, you're at that church? Because there's several, but it was just
Yeah.
the cutest thing. And you know, I think about that often.
Well, sometimes God will impress me to move forward, though. He will say, Mark, you need to leave. A lot of times I'll stay overnight at where I'm plugged in at. And one time I was coming out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. I was there on a Thursday night. I was doing Lincoln, Nebraska for the weekend. Had to do the sermon on the Sabbath. And Friday was my travel day. And I was like, man, God was just impressing upon me. He's like, Mark, you need to leave tonight. And I thought,
you don't drive late.
No. And I thought maybe I'm in a bad neighborhood and something dangerous is going to happen and he needs me to go. So I said, okay, I'll go. And I figured I'll drive, maybe 4 or 5 hours, get about halfway there and call it a night. And I'm driving and I started getting really tired. I'm like, whoa, okay, I got to pull over. And I pull into this little town, Sidney, Nebraska. Little, just a, highway town.
Hole in the wall.
Yeah. And I sleep for the night. I get up the next morning. I hear this clankety, 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 clank. And it was like, okay, there's something wrong. And I looked down at my trailer, and the axle was a little off. And this is my 10-foot trailer. And I said, there's something wrong with that. I could just, and I could have drove. I was thinking about driving to the next town because it was so early in the morning, nothing was open. And God's like, no, find somebody. And so I'm driving around in town, and I find a little truck or semi driver, repair guy. And pull it up there. He's like, oh, well, okay, let me take a look at it. And he pulls the wheel off, and I had a cracked hub.
Oh, my.
Yeah. He said, I can't believe you're even driving this in here. He said, you would not have got 5 miles on this vehicle. And he says, driving down the road like this, when that breaks, the wheel falls off, the axle hits the ground, and with this old trailer, you probably wouldn't even have anything left to pick up at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour.
Ooh, wow.
He says it could have just dragged you right into oncoming traffic or something. And so he takes a look, and he says it's going to cost so much to repair. And he said after he did a little homework, it was a custom ordered thing. He says it's going to be about $700 to repair it. And I prayed about it, and I prayed about it. I said, yeah, go ahead and fix it. He's like, this trailer's not worth $700.
It was to you.
I only paid $250 for the trailer. But I said, look, I got to have it. And I said, while you're at it, put an extra heavy duty one on it. So he got the bigger one. It was like $799 or something. And so I could have stayed in that town, got a motel, and just canceled the events coming up. And I said, you know what? I am not going to let Satan get the best of this. I got in my little van, which was the one that blew up. And we talked about that before. And I went to Lincoln, Nebraska, did the sermon. The pastor and I are out there shaking hands with all the people coming through the congregation, right? And this kid, in his mid-20s, comes up to us and he says, you know what? I don't even know why I'm here today. But after listening to the sermon and enjoying this service, I made my decision to dedicate my life to Christ, and I'm joining this church. And I was like, amen, and pastor's just like, all right. And who knows if Satan was trying to keep me away from one person,
That divine appointment.
and what would have happened, if things had went a different way. And so you never know, and you cannot allow Satan to trap you down, because God always has a way. And in fact, my trailer wasn't done. So I went down to another stop, and it still wasn't done. Went all the way down to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Are you serious? That's a long way.
And then I had 3 days off, never did miss an event. And then I had 3 days off, and I drove 2,700 miles from Chattanooga, Tennessee, all the way to Nebraska to get my trailer and make it over to Worthington, Ohio for my next event. And God provided every single bit of the funds. This is when I didn't know how I was going to get from stop to stop, you know. And one night I even slept in my van. And,
It happens. You know,
Yeah.
I don't even have words. It would take days for us to sit here and tell you the blessings that other people have received. And I don't even know sometimes what one little thing I might say, and it's not me. God is using me. But Mark said something a long time ago when people ask, it's me, God, it's me, use me. Because he's taken, I feel like this old woman without I didn't feel like I had any talent, and he's grooming me to use the talent that I have. And I believe the more I do what God wants me to, the more he gives me, the more talent, the more understanding. And
Have you noticed that when you started doing these events, it was what you thought should be done, and it's changed? Yes, he rechanges it. It's totally different than what I used to do.
And I don't know, next year he might have something else for me.
Right, and they're growing, but I'll tell you what, here's the whole point. Here's the whole point that you got to understand, is that God has protected us, he has guided us, he has provided for us, and he has allowed us to grow, because God knows that we need these health messages out there. We've shown time and time and time again how God has worked through the health message. The church knows how God has worked through the health message. They need to support it more, which they don't, not as much as they should or could. But you know, the people like you are the people that support, you know, these type of ministries. And why? Because God knows they're successful. Because when you get healthier physically, you're going to get healthier mentally, and then you have a better connection with God.
Spiritual.
And it all comes from the health message, getting a clearer mind. And when you have a clear mind, that's when God can communicate with you and really fill you with the Holy Spirit. And that's what we do. We have a passion to do this.
You and I sat 3 days ago with your lovely wife, my very good friend, and we sat in a building eating lunch. And when Brenda was telling us the story of somebody donating $90 million for that building and the wonderful meals that they were providing and what it had done for that campus, you know, Mark, I sat there and thought, I have the wealthiest father in the universe. And I know somebody out there somewhere is going to donate and give us the money that we need to further this message that we have, the health message, which is all about mind, body, spirit. And it's the truth, because when I became healthier and I started to lose weight, it wasn't just about my physical appearance, although the better health, the healthier we look, we are a billboard for either Satan or Christ. Is that not correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. And I wanted to be a billboard for God. I didn't want people to look at me as a woman who was out of control, that couldn't control herself with her eating. And so I sat there and I thought about this, and I thought, you know, when I took on a new body, I took on a new mind, which gave me a new spirit, because I read things in the Bible clearer than I had ever read before when I was eating the junk food and I felt like I was a sloth, you know, just sitting around because I didn't have the energy. And there, you cannot explain to people unless they've been through it how your mind is able to receive the Word of God when your body is clear of all this junk.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
so
and
simple.
see, we have a passion to help other people get out of the place that they are the way God got us out of the place that we are. And you really hit a chord there when you were talking about the donation for $90 million to Andrews University.
And I you know, I think
And,
it's wonderful. What a blessing.
There are people out there that God is going to impress to contribute to our ministry. And maybe God's impressing upon you to donate 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. But how many people are actually going to do that? See, you know, there's a big difference between people who are impressed to do something and
Act upon it.
And act upon it with action, doing, you know. People put it on the back burner. Satan will find every possible way to keep people from doing the actions that God wants them to do.
He can
that's
even
what
use an
happens.
old wore-out van.
Yeah, exactly. So
You know, I have never made a plea in my life. I have never went out, asked somebody for money. I have just prayed and just asked God to impress somebody. But maybe you're that person sitting there today thinking, I have some extra money, but I was going to do this with it, or I was going to add an addition, or I thought about getting a new car. You know, praise the Lord that you're able to have that kind of money. But God might be impressing upon you, I need to donate to that ministry.
yeah. Well, see, I'll do please. I do more now than I used to, just because, you know, I have such a passion to do more for the
I
kingdom.
do too. This is
mean-
not where I want to be today. I want to be doing more. If God wants to use me 7 days a week, if I need to go across the country, I do a lot more flying than Mark does. I don't have that camper, but I might be in Texas and somebody's wanting me in Minnesota, and the next week I have to be in Florida, or 2 days later back in Tennessee. And you know what? I don't really like to fly, but if God's putting me on that airplane to take me to an event, then it's His responsibility to get me there safe and back. And if not, then it was my time to go. I was still doing what God asked me to do. And you need to do what God's asking you to do.
Amen. I just love it. I'm just
I
so
do too.
thankful that God has chosen us to do these type of things.
And Mark, I would rather be here today doing what I'm doing, because I can lay my head on my pillow at night and sleep knowing that I'm doing what God's wanted me to do, than working back in corporate America, making good money, sleeping in the same bed every night. And I love my family. I miss my family. But you know what? There's plenty of time for me to enjoy my family. But God's got a work for me to do, and
That-
I must go.
We'll talk about that in the time management class.
We will.
But yeah, rest assured, we do a very good job of using the funds that God
Yes, we
provides
do.
for us. You know, I live a debt-free living now, and so I need very little to sustain myself. And most everything I get just goes right back in ministry, and that's what's paid for all of this to get out there.
And I'm looking to be debt-free, but I might have to buy a new vehicle.
So you're not going to hear a lot of appeals from us like this. You're not.
Won't.
That's not what we're here for.
We don't do
But,
it in our seminars. When now I don't
But you-
preach on Sabbath, but I do go into the church and give my personal testimony for the Sabbath hour. And I'll never forget in San Antonio, and I didn't expect it. And I had a young lady who come up to me after the testimony at church, and she handed me an envelope. And she said, "This is my sister and my 2 brothers and her family." And she said, "We got together and we wanted to give you this donation." I didn't ask for money. I just got up there and told them about my experience and why I was doing what I did, and gave my personal testimony. I didn't look at it. I put it in my purse, said thank you. There was no name on it. There was cash in there. I didn't know. And that evening, I didn't even think about it. I was digging something out of my purse, and I seen it. I thought, oh, that was so nice of them. Thinking I had $20 in there. Mark, I think it was $487, the largest donation, and I had forgotten about it till now. The largest donation I'd ever received from one person.
To me, that's more precious of receiving something that you never asked for.
And I will never forget that.
I mean, think about this. We are receiving salvation from God when we never asked for it. You know, He put His life on the cross before we were ever born. And
And you know, when Jesus was walking on the face of the earth and He was teaching people, I wonder if people donated food. Same thing, Mark.
oh yeah, He was always provided for.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not putting myself near like Christ, but people who are in ministry, whatever ministry, of people you know out there in your church or organization, they work off of the monies provided from you.
I don't think he really did many or any appeals.
I don't think he had to. I think that was a error where I
Yeah.
think that was the acceptable.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
Amazing.
food or a new pair of sandals.
It's amazing what God can do.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Mark, it's been a pleasure as always.
It has. We will have to do this again.
Yes, we will.
Thank you all for tuning in. Of course, we do have our donation things available on the website and different things that you can call in donations, mail them in, that type of thing. We've got all our information on the screen. Of course, books are available, and give us a call. Sometimes we're able to come out and do an event at your location. So, Mark and Melody, we will see you next time in the kitchen. Hi, Mark Anthony here with one of my favorite times when I get to share with you the doctor of the day. And let me tell you, I've got a great doctor for you today. His name is David Kessler. Now, David Kessler, he was the head of the Food and Drug Administration. And he was just a genius guy. He's a double doctorate from, I don't know where he's got his Harvard University, and he's got a medical degree and a law degree, and just a genius guy. Worked for the head of the Food and Drug Administration. Now, he was busting people for doing illegal stuff all the time, and he was what they called the whistleblower, and because he was. And so people did not like him in the Food and Drug Administration because he was busting their livelihood of doing such horrible things in the Food and Drug Administration. So, but I want to share with you, the only thing I have right here is his Wikipedia history and through the Food and Drug Administration, things like that. But I want to share with you, here's his book. This is a New York Times bestseller book called The End of Overeating, and it's got a carrot cake and then some carrots. So this is his book, The End of Overeating by David Kessler. It's a New York Times bestseller, David Kessler. So you got to get this book. You can get it for like $10 on Amazon. And it really shows some of the interesting things that this doctor had discovered in his days at the Food and Drug Administration. And I mean, he was busting people for doing illegal stuff. And he found out that the manufacturers of food all hire scientists to find out any way they possibly can to make their food addictive. Whatever they have to do to make that food addictive. And he said all the fast food restaurants hire scientists to make their food addictive. Even restaurants like Chili's and I think it was TGI Fridays, just quoting the book, they actually hire scientists to work along with the chefs to make that food as addictive as possible. And what they found out is that, and we've talked about this a lot, not only chemicals, but when you have the exact combination of sugar, oil, and salt, it will make that food addictive. And so those are triggers that you want to watch out for, is that sugar, oil, and salt. And but you know, if you want to lose weight, if you want to really, you know, see what the world is trying to do to you, to rob your pocketbook in every way, shape, and form, this is the book to get. I recommend this book to everybody because it is, and it's a good read. It's not very complicated. It's got a few little technical things in it, but you know, any layperson would be able to read this one literally. So there you go, The End of Overeating by David Kessler. Definitely one of my highest recommendations for that particular book, and so enjoy that one, and it will help you live a healthier life. So we'll see you next time. Hi, Mark Anthony here to show you how to make some gluten-free oatmeal waffles. And these are really easy to make. You just need a couple ingredients, and you don't even need a recipe for it, but I do have exact recipes on my website and usually at the end of these clips. The main thing to do with oatmeal waffles is to take equal parts of soy milk and quick oats. Now you can use almond milk or any type of milk you want. But we're going to take, in this case, 6 cups of soy milk and 6 cups of oats. But I do have some other ingredients here. I've got a couple tablespoons of honey, and we're going to get that in there. And we've got a couple of other ingredients. I've got a 1/4 cup of ground flaxseed. I've got a tablespoon of vanilla, tablespoon of salt, and a tablespoon of cinnamon. So we're just gonna kind of mix these up a little bit here. And then we're gonna add our oats. And it doesn't have to be perfectly mixed together or anything like that, because this is all gonna rest. This right here is gonna rest for about 3 hours. A lot of times we will just put this in the fridge overnight, or even in the garage in the wintertime if it's not freezing over. But that's what you're looking at. You can see how it's all watery, just oats, soy milk, and then add whatever flavorings you want for the most part. Okay, so we're gonna let this rest, and then we're gonna come back and make our waffles. All right, there you go. This has been resting for about 3 hours. You can see how thick it is. It might be a little too thick, but we are going to try it out here and see how this turns out for us. And we're just going to take a couple batches at a time here, and I'm going to give this a whip, and we'll do a good enough to let you know how much we do. And I think it's going to need a little almond milk, but we'll try it real quick here. Okay. Woo! Let me tell you, it did not need any additional water or milk whatsoever. But what you can do is if it ends up being a little too thick, then you can just take a little soy milk, add it in there to try to thin it down a little bit. But basically you want it pourable, just like a real thick pancake or waffle mix. Right here, we got our waffle maker. I always hit it with a little bit of spray. And then we're going to add our waffle mix to it. And I usually start in the middle, work my way around the outside. And you can really get this to the outskirts too. So, but right about like that. And give this a press, turn it around. Takes about 3 minutes, and then we'll flip it back around and we will have our waffle ready. Okay, this looks like it's done. The ready light came on, and just like this, we've got our waffle. And you can be real careful, just kind of pull that baby out of there nice and easy, and whoo, you got your waffle. And what I'm gonna do, a lot of times when it gets a little, that goes over the sides, you can just scrape around it. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna freeze these, and after I freeze them, it's IQF, remember, individual quick freeze, and after they're frozen individually, then you can bag them together like this, and we have the frozen ones in bags, and then we can just break these in half, put them in the toaster. If you're on the run and you got to grab a quick bite, you've got these ready to go in minutes. So I'll actually go through all of these and knock this out real quick for you. But it's that fast and easy to make a healthy breakfast that's ready to go on the run. And that's why I like these waffles. And plus it's gluten-free. So a lot of people that are going gluten-free, there you go. So Mark Anthony, oh, let me remind you too, I like these waffle irons that have the thicker grooves in it rather than the shallow ones, because it really gives more depth to the waffle, and you get a lot more crispness in it. It's just such a better product. So that's it for today. Mark Anthony, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time on The Whole Message.
Hi, Melody Prettyman here from The Whole Message, giving you your tip of the day. The apple, 65 calories in a medium apple with 17 grams of carbohydrate, which are complex. Whether you eat your apple baked or fresh, remember, health is just one bite away. I think Mark is boiling water.
It smells so good.
It does. You know what? We are going to
But there's nothing in it.
We're going to do some red chard.
Chard!
Yes, I love it. I
Chard.
love it. Look,
You know,
right.
all of your greens like this, whether it be kale or it be spinach, it has a lot of water in it. So even though you might think that is a lot, it's not very much.
You know it's going to be bitter like this.
What? Well, it could be a cranberry.
Is this all ready for me to go in there?
That
You
know,
already
I
got this chopped up.
I want you to put a little garlic. I want you to put a little bit of garlic in there, Mark. So I want to savor it with some garlic and just a little salt. And then what I like to do when my char is all done, I just squeeze some fresh lemon over the top before I serve it.
Oh, okay. So,
Yum. Yeah, just toss it in there. And it's going to seem full, but it's going to sit there and really steam.
are we just going to
And
pack this and close the lid
We're
on
going to
it?
pack it, close
Can
the
we do
lid.
that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Is it in your contract?
It's in, I don't know, I guess I need to pull my contract out and take a look at it, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I don't have a contract. Okay, so we're just going to go like this and give it a couple minutes.
Just give it a couple minutes.
It's hot.
Now, Mark, how long is that? Oh, perfect. Now, remember we had this full kettle full of char. And what do we have now?
Not much left
Not much
here.
left. That's why it's so water-based.
Okay.
Wow.
So you don't really need the oil in here. I'm used to doing it with
don't.
oil
A lot of people
and
are.
reducing it, but this really turned out good.
Yes, I like to use just, I saute with water and a lot of things, Mark, you know that. Of course, I
What-
love lots of lemons, so I always.
What you could actually do now is actually just saute it so that juice evaporates if you
Sure
really
you can.
wanted to.
Sure you can.
But you don't mind the juice, do you?
I don't mind the juice.
You gonna put some lemon in here?
Well, I thought I'd let you put some, would take the tongs and put it in the bowl, and I'm gonna squeeze a lemon on top of it.
Okay, so you just want this plated up? Is that what
Yeah,
we're gonna
plate
do
it
here?
up, plate it up.
Okay. Well, can I just, the whole thing?
Sure you can, the whole thing. That's my portion. Sauna.
Yeah, that's nice. I love the Salad Master pan too because it doesn't, you
Their
can cook at a
products
lower
are great.
temperature and, yeah. So.
Now,
Okay,
I'm
I'm
just
just gonna-
gonna take a little of the lemon, Mark. Make sure I don't get any of the seeds out in my dish.
And make it look pretty. Just like that, huh?
Just like that. Want
Okay.
to taste?
You can sprinkle it with a little garlic on top. if you want.
Oh, yes, why not?
So it's gonna have that garlic flavor for sure.
And we want it to. We want some kind of a
Grab
flavor
me
on
a
it.
fork too. Yeah, absolutely.
Here, you use that one. Can you have that
Money
bite?
back guarantee, huh?
This is, you know, people, you have these in your garden all year, and you're like, what are we going to make with this? Just do simple dishes.
Just the right amount of salt and lemon. The garlic is just,
Just perfect.
it's almost like candy, except not sweet. But it's that, you know, it's like, ooh, I gotta have another bite.
I know it. It's very subtle on the palate. Very subtle.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that of something that was so bitter, basically, on the taste bud going into the pan. It comes out delicious.
Well, I don't know, Mark. I think we just need to half this up and eat it.
I think we
Or-
need to make another batch.
I think we do. I've got my mouth full and I need to say goodbye.
Thank you all for tuning in. Share these with your friends and family, and we will see you next time in the kitchen.
Oh, it's so good.
Hey, everybody. My thought for today is that everything that you put in your mouth is either going to help your body or harm your body. Everything you put in your mouth is either going to add to your life or take away from your life. And when you can start categorizing things to say, hey, that's going to take away from my life, maybe then we can start really pointing out which particular foods are a real problem in our life. So, everything that you put in your mouth is going to help your body or it's going to harm your body. It's going to add to your life or it's going to take away from your life. So let's make a decision and then make sure that you stay away from those foods that are taking away from your life. And we'll see you next time.
Well, that was another good one. Of course, they always are, and
That
I
was
know I
another
say
good
that
one.
every time because I love what we do in the kitchen.
I'm just
You know
playing.
what we need to do sometime is you over here and me cooking,
Yeah.
so we have different sets.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
Our new studio should have enough room to even do another studio set. So
Oh, that'd be great.
yeah,
Great.
we're going to be struggling on the finances for that one. So
You know,
send in your donations. If you got an extra $100,000, by all means, numbers on the screen. You can mail us a letter.
we need it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mark does not throw his money around. I can vouch for that. I've seen
Well,
you. I've seen you
I throw it around for ministry.
but I'm saying in the right place.
Yeah.
I look at that studio. I remember the first time that I ever laid my eyes on the studio when you
Yeah.
got it done, and you said, "Come, we need to do some filming. Come and look at my studio." And I was in awe.
Yeah.
And how you did it, and the budget that you did it on. And I've seen studios where people have spent thousands
Oh.
and thousands and thousands, Mark, and they don't even compare.
Yeah.
So I really know that God was with you.
Yeah.
God was really with you when you did this.
Yep. And he'll be with us
We need
for
more.
the next one.
We need,
So,
write those checks. Some of you might think, oh, I have $50 or $100. Do you know if 100 people did that, there's money.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of throw out a couple appeals here and there.
We do.
If you look at any ministry, 90% of what they do is appeals.
Mm-hmm.
Send us your $70. If you look at mainstream Christian
TV,
oh
in the
man,
news.
it's just ridiculous.
Constantly.
And we're not even close to a fraction of that.
No. We bring you, we try every way we can to bring you as much information, cook as many recipes, design them, and we don't get out there and say, here, if you want this recipe, then we're going to charge you for it. We give it away.
So, but God's provided, and
He
He'll
has.
keep providing
He has.
for us. So, Amen. That's it for
That's
today.
it.
We're
We're
just
done.
out of time, and we'll just have to catch you on the next program with the whole message. So, be blessed.